Aloha, oi! What's up, everybody? And welcome to the Cusp of Everything. My name is Sarah, and this is Corey.
Corey.
Welcome. Let's talk. This light, I don't know how people do it.
Dun, 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 dun. Disco fever, and you wonder
who's that chick? Who's that chick? Yeah, copyright.
I mean, you can just read the terms and conditions.
But why?
I think people rely on the fact that you will not read the terms and conditions so that they can get you one day. But I don't think that's the pure intention. It's relying on a human fault and to take advantage of that. But what do I know?
But really, who's going to sit there and read just bare like terms that you don't even understand? Sometimes I do actually go through and read it, and I'm just
you know what I used to do?
I skim it and just like read over it.
Yeah, but then you're still not reading it. So basically, this is what I learned when I was young. Have a hotel, right? Used to be
the things we've learned from Have a Hotel.
Honestly, but they used to be really strict with this stuff. So basically, you'd go through the terms and conditions, and then if you didn't read it, so basically, if the bar wasn't all the way down, you couldn't click accept.
So you scroll down.
Well, yeah, obviously, that's what we all end up doing. But at least they made an attempt. Oh my goodness!
What?
The terms and conditions, right? People don't read them because they're always so damn lazy.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, but then like you're gonna be mad when suddenly like someone says, "I own you," bitch. Where? When you signed it?
It's like nowadays, especially with all the music industries and all the artists coming out and saying, "Hey, I'm under this contract and I can't get blah, 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 blah." People are looking more into things like contracts and stuff like that, but we don't get taught it just the same way that we don't get taught how to do our taxes. So it's kind of like being thrown into the deep end. You get excited by a deal and no one teaches you, again, these terms and stuff like that. No one says you need to make sure that you read through the contract. You need to make sure you understand what it's actually saying. Get someone that actually gets it, or you yourself learn it. Instead, it's just kind of like, again, like taxes is like being thrown into the world and suddenly you've got to do all these things and you have no idea how to do it.
Fair. However, karma. Once you become an adult, how can you constantly sit there and be like, school should have taught me at one point or another?
Oh, 100%.
You take that responsibility, right?
Yeah,
and
but that's what I'm saying. The conversation is coming back now. I think it's opening up to young people. So now it's like, you hear these terms like you got to negotiate now. And I think because of things like YouTube and Instagram and everyone becoming independent entrepreneurs, that people have more leverage. People have more leverage over the situation because it's like, I have the product that you want, therefore we need to work out these terms and conditions. Do you know what I mean? But people still get fooled by it, for sure. Like people still don't know how to approach these things.
I feel as if though there's certain things. There's a difference between an artist or somebody going into a business and signing a contract and you going onto Facebook and creating a Facebook account, because Facebook isn't promising you anything per se. You don't actually know what you're signing up for until you signed up for it and you're seeing what's happening. Whereas I feel like possibly with people who are getting a contract, whether you're an artist or not, or just getting into a job, they usually tell you, like, the main bit. Like if I was giving you a contract, I'm like, oh, well, this is what it says and this is what you're going to get from it. All right. That's the main premises. And then you're just going to believe me.
Yeah.
But
that's what I'm saying. Everyone gets fooled, blinded by the light.
Yeah.
Did I sing this right song?
I don't know.
But everyone gets blinded by like the good things that no one actually sits down to consider that there could be bad things. You better make sure that it's real and it's foolproof. It's not just for the short term, but for the long term, that you're okay with it. And some people are okay with it. There's like some people are okay with going into an industry and feeling like, okay, these people are gonna like direct me and guide me and teach me how to do my thing. You know what I mean? and I want to just be a pop star, or I just want to be a reality TV show, I just want to be this, I just want to be this. Whereas some people may have more hold onto that actual talent. Like they're more like, well, I'm an artist, so my art comes first, you know, and everyone's different. Some people want fame, some people want to be recognized for what they actually do, some people want money, some people just want to have a normal, everyday, regular, schmugular, degular life. And that's okay. But it's just recognizing how you want to play it, I think. And I don't know. I'm not an artist. It's hard out there, though. Hey, it's so hard.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'm not an artist, but I am somebody that works for themselves. So I do still think contracts are important because I still need to know what I'm actually signing up for, because before I know it, right, my picture is being shown everywhere, right? And I don't even know anything about it because apparently it's just in my contracts.
Woo!
Okay.
I'm just gonna sip my coffee.
But
absolutely, yeah.
I wanted to leave that in, right? With 2021 has come, and you know how people always used to make New Year's resolutions and then they don't follow up on it.
Yes.
Now, I'm just relating that to the whole contract situation, because if you just read your contract with time, you would actually know all the little clauses and all the little things that you may not agree with, so you can actually question them before signing the contract.
Right.
Do you think that's a part of procrastination? Because I think it is, because you just want things to move on so you don't have to do anything.
I don't think it's necessarily procrastinating, just because it's jumping to, it's skipping steps instead of not doing steps. I think procrastination is kind of more like,
if you're skipping, it's also not doing it, right? Okay. All right.
You know what I mean? Because if, like, say, for example, I had this contract and say, for example, it was like divorce papers, then you could say that by me not signing it, I'm procrastinating because I'm taking ages to get this done and it needs to get done. Otherwise, the next step cannot move forward. Whereas if, you know, where someone comes and just gives you a contract that you have to sign, right? And it's kind of like reading it or not reading it doesn't matter, because you just sign the contract, and then whether you read it after or not, you've signed it. So it doesn't matter whether you read it because you've already signed it. So that it can't be procrastination, I don't think. So unless it's like the last step to making something happen. Do you know what I mean? I don't know whether you mean like what is not reading the contract procrastination. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
But then is this after you've accepted it?
This is before and after, because if you then also choose not to read it after, then you don't actually, like, unless
but then once you've signed it, I don't think it's procrastinating. Before you signed it, then yeah, it's procrastination.
Well, this is the thing, though, because sometimes you can sign a contract and they'll be like, oh, like, let's say it's a phone contract. They can be like, you have 30 days to read this. So if you don't agree with anything, you can still come back and let us know to not accept your contract, for example. Usually it's not 30 days. I think usually it's 7 or something. But there are some contracts that allow you to have some time before you make adjustments to it, before you completely accept it.
Okay, so how would you then define procrastination?
So for me, I feel like the definition for me right now, or my understanding of it, is that when you procrastinate, it's holding something off, right? But then I feel as if when you hold something off, you usually regret, or you may regret holding the thing off, because you constantly think back on it, right? Or it's come back to haunt you. And that's why I feel like if you don't read a contract, especially in this day and age with people now only being aware about what's happening to their personal information, let's say, for example, WhatsApp and a new update, I myself haven't read it yet, but that's because I've got 2 phones and I don't care what happens with one of them. on the information I have.
Should I be worried? I'm still on WhatsApp. I keep seeing people around being like, oh, everybody got to delete it. Like, why is anyone on WhatsApp anymore? I'm like,
That's
oh
what
my
I'm
God.
saying. Like, I haven't read it. And I feel like when you then don't read, it's procrastinating, because when you then accept it, you're just accepting it because you want to use the app. But
where's everyone talking now then?
everyone's talking, like, people are always talking about the same thing, almost saying that our information isn't secure, or what are these people going to do with our information. But if you read it, maybe you'll actually find out, because you don't have to agree with it.
Right.
But it's just that when you don't agree with it, you don't get to use it. But that's a conscious choice. Whereas when you, because you procrastinate on actually reading it, and some people never ever read it, all they ever hear is the government or WhatsApp is taking my information, and
okay, I
they
see
don't
what
do
you're
anything
saying.
about
I
it.
see what you're saying now. So you're just saying kind of like almost in a very, very profound way, actually, that procrastination is not only not getting something done or holding something off or taking ages to do it, but procrastination is also kind of never acknowledging your misjudgment or your overlook of what you did. So for example, like you're saying, like if someone overlooks a contract and then however many years down the line it bites them in the ass, and you're like, well, you should have read the contract.
Well, that's how I see it, because and then that's why, again, I'm relating it back to like the New Year's resolution as well, when I brought that as an example, where I'm like, you always make these resolutions and sometimes they're very similar. And it's like you always have the time to do it, but you just don't. Because there are some stuff that I felt like, oh, I should have done. And now when I was clearing out my stuff, I was looking through things and I'm like, I got this because I said I wanted to be able to build this or do this, but I never did it. And I just asked myself, do I still think it's important, first
Yeah.
of all? And if I didn't think it was important anymore, I'll get rid of it. And if I did think it was important, I gave myself a timestamp. I'm like, end of the year. Now, if the end of the year comes and I still don't do anything with it, to me, I'm just telling myself it must not be that important. So therefore, I have to move on from this. Because once again, the way I then look at it is, the more I hold on to it, the more I'm procrastinating from letting it go, because I clearly don't care enough to do it.
Yeah, I guess. I think especially though with like the year that we've had, everyone's sort of starting to try to find something, and that pressure of kind of being like, use this time, use this time, use this time. Same thing, like the beginning of lockdown when it was all sunny in London and everything was nice and vibes, and it was like good, happy, even though this whole start of getting lockdown and stuff was happening. Weather really affects the mood here, right? So it's kind of like I pick up my sister's guitar and her old guitar, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna learn guitar during lockdown and stuff like that. And then, stuff kept happening, and my passion for trying to motivate myself to learn the guitar had slowly faded or been overshadowed by other things that were happening. And so therefore, once I put it down, it was kind of like, oh, now it's kind of trying to get that thing again where I wanted to, winter time comes around, everything's so sad and gloomy, and you can't enjoy the sun and come back and feel good about it, or you can't, go take a walk outside, you work till 4 o'clock and it's basically nighttime. There's so many factors that kind of, I think, has almost sucked that energy out, that kind of wanting to do something and wanting to feel like you're using this time wisely. So yeah, I do understand what you're saying, because there are a lot of things that I look back on and I'm like, man, if I had just done that, if I had just done it. And I agree with you to some extent. Sometimes if you don't do it or you don't have that same amount of passion towards it, then maybe you just need to let it go. But at the same time, I feel like it's that igniting the passion within itself, right? So for example, like I do want to learn guitar and I do want to say, but I would rather like get taught or like have a friend teach me, or like, have that kind of connectivity or something that I can attach to it also, which makes me want to put it into my daily schedule. Whereas when it's so hard to do that and you have to kind of build up this momentum on your own, and of course you can, but especially for me, I don't know about you, I'm a very like, I need life to happen, and it doesn't necessarily mean people, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean like someone here, someone there. It could literally just be outside. Like London is such a concrete jungle. Again, nighttime at 4 o'clock. So it's kind of just taking that life away. It's that fear of, okay, I can go and do something and learn something, but I also need to get money because we don't know what's happening with what's going on right now with the economy, with COVID, with the world, and where we're going to be at, and whether jobs are going to still be there or not. So it's kind of like, I need to now survive, make sure that I'm able to survive after this, after the aftermath, you know?
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I 100% agree. But I feel as if that is taking an opportunity, isn't it? So sometimes you can procrastinate because you're waiting for the right opportunity. But
Mm-hmm.
I think depending on anyone's situation, it really is about what it is you may be procrastinating. Because for me, myself, I do consider some things to not be worth holding off on.
Yeah.
And I feel as if I hold off from this, is it procrastinating or am I purposely holding off to it because I'm waiting for the right moment? There are many things, right? When COVID hit, I immediately knew I had time to do. They all came buzzing, flowing into my brain as if they were waiting for the right moment in life.
Yes, I know what you mean.
And that was it. So I was like, this is the moment. This is the time. That's the first thing I thought about. Yes, I thought, oh my God, what's going to happen? I'm not going to lie to you. At one point, I was like, wow, this will be very interesting. Is this going to be like one of those zombie films?
No, girl.
Thank
Oh my
God that
goodness.
wasn't the
God
case, or thank
forbid.
God that isn't the case right now.
Woo, rebuke.
But it was like, I need to do these things that I said I wanted to do because I needed time. And now I've been given time to do so. Hence why that almost resolution myself of being like, well, some of these things I only rediscovered, right? From like cleaning up. So how much of it really still is a part of me or still means a lot to me, because I could just be being nostalgic about something. And if I'm just being nostalgic, then maybe it is time to let it go. I can
Guilty.
have a piece
I'm
of it,
so guilty of that. I'm so
right?
guilty of being sentimental and stupid about things. Like, I'm really not like that, like, whooshy, kitty, whatever. But like, when it comes down to things like memories, like I have random objects from random times in my life and I just keep them for no reason. Like, they're just there and I don't even use it. It's just there. Like,
But that's the thing. So now I've actually kept one of the things that I found as almost like a memorabilia of, it's the embodiment of my procrastination.
Oh God, what is it?
It's literally just a learning French book.
Oh, right. I remember you sending me a picture of that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that.
I got French now.
Yeah, like I got that when we were doing GCSE French, but no, before GCSEs actually. But then when you know how they
Was it Madame Nielsen was our French teacher,
I
wasn't
mean,
it?
you've got a great memory for remembering that. I don't know.
I
I don't know
remember
if she
only
had
because
black
in year
hair.
9, I don't know if she hated me or not, but she also liked me at the same time. It was a very weird relationship we had. But I vaguely remember she's always in my memory for some reason. It must have been
She
like
liked me. Whoever it was, she liked me. And the only reason they liked me, and this is the thing about being Dutch, right? We roll our R's a certain way, and the French do as well. So
Show it then. How do you roll your R's?
I don't know.
Like
Right?
everybody else rolls their
No,
R's.
because no, not at all. Come on, like I have to say something in French or something for it to make sense. But this is my point, right? I can't say anything in French. But the reason to that as well was because when we were picking our GCSEs, there were certain subjects. They were like, you can't do this because it's going to clash with this. So you got to pick which one you think is more important.
Doesn't it suck though, but like sometimes when you look back at something, is that classed as failure? If you haven't done it, is that failure? Because a lot of people have definition of what failure is, right? Some people say there's no such thing as failure. Some people say, obviously, the definition, as we know, is if you don't win, you fail, right? Or if you don't succeed, you fail. If at first you don't succeed, you just mess it off and try again. Dust yourself off, try again.
Try again.
But if you don't necessarily finish something, or you don't go on and do something, is that failure?
By definition, yes. But what I've noticed with failure is that everybody always has a reason, right? And this is why I link it in with procrastination, to be honest. But this, I think everyone always has a reason to why they sometimes failed. They try to justify the reasons they failed, so it makes them feel better. Now, my question to everybody and those people is, why is failing a bad thing? Failing seems to be negative.
Well,
but just because you didn't
a lot more people now, I think a lot more people now on the outskirt, like, are trying to have this conversation of, you know, it's okay to fail, blah, 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 blah. But that's easy said when I think what people are trying to say is like, okay, some people can't afford to fail.
Yeah.
Some people feel like they don't have the space or the opportunity, you know, to fail because, like I said earlier, like you we're just surviving out here. Because of the repercussions, I feel like people just are fearful of failing.
Yeah. Well, I feel like maybe we need an example because I feel it's just so broad. And so it may be that I might be thinking of a situation where I can say that, well, failure, if you fail, you can just try again. But then you're thinking of another situation where it's kind of like a bit more complicated. And I can understand why somebody may feel like, well, this is it. But I feel like when you dwell in the this is it for too long, that's when failure becomes a worse thing than it actually is.
I feel like, and it ties hand in hand with, I think, procrastination, because people procrastinate because they're scared to fail. You don't start something because you're scared that you're not gonna, you know, you tell yourself lies and you tell yourself, oh, it's because of this, or it's because of this, or it's not just the time, or it's not the thing, or it's not the moment. But I think people actually are scared to do it because it sets them up for failing. It sets you up for like looking silly, or maybe this isn't for you. When I take a guitar and I try to play it and I get a couple of chords, I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then it gets really hard and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna take a break from it. And again, because I'm teaching myself and I'm going on YouTube, and I've realized I'm not the sort of person, and everyone says, you know, you can learn things off YouTube. I like learning IRL. I like learning when like I see something or someone doing something that I like and I'm like, oh man, let me have a go. Teach me what to do. Let me see if I can do it, whether it's like whatever it is. And as much as, yes, I do use, of course, I use YouTube for some things, and I use it for quick fixes, or something where I've already figured out most of it and I just need to know like a detail, you know. I kind of like, even when I play around with software and things like that, I kind of try to figure stuff out. And then when I'm like, okay, how do you do this? And I can't figure it out, that's when I go to YouTube and I type in that specific thing and I'm like, okay, how do I figure this out? And then I take that knowledge and I put it on. So that makes it more difficult, which is why I think that this past 12 months or so, everything doesn't feel the same. Failure doesn't feel the same. Success doesn't feel the same. Do you know what I mean? Because people are winning. People are winning right now. A lot of people are winning. And a lot of people are doing things. And you've seen all around the world, people have been really unlocking the online potential and everything that comes around with it. And you know, crafting at home and building things and starting businesses, starting ventures, starting podcasts, starting whatever it is. And a lot of people have managed to do that. But then there's the other side whom are having, again, to survive. Therefore, they're like, okay, I need to pay my bills. I need to be working from 9 to 5. I can't afford to buy, you know, the things to help me create this thing or do something. Or my talents don't reside in craft or in whatever it is, right? It's just very interesting with procrastination and not trying and not getting there in the past 12 months, because it's like, this has really drained some people. Some people are really drained mentally and physically, and therefore cannot produce anything, or there's nothing in them to produce, you know. There's no will for it anymore.
It's very complicated and it's very hard, I will say, because it also dives into mental health. It dives into a lot of aspects of being a human being. And I do sometimes think this might be, again, coming from, I always like to say this, I think even being able to focus on your mental health is a privilege because it really depends on what is going on in your life.
That freaking part.
It's easier sometimes when you're in a certain position to focus on your mental health, change your mindset a little bit before you start doing something different. Whereas
Right.
some people just don't have that in life. So I think it's very difficult. And that's why I think it depends on the situations. Right now in my life, I feel as if I've got the opportunity to look at things and use things as an example. Like I told you, my French book is the symbolism of my procrastination. So every time I now look at it, almost, it's kind of like, this is the reason why I keep going, and this is the reason why I'm not gonna put things on hold. It's my equivalent, because I don't believe, I know some people use this quite a bit, but you know, they have all the murals on the wall and stuff, and it's like, oh, like eat, pray, love,
Visual and
you know,
stuff like
stuff
that.
like that, which is great. But I have those, I create those myself. And because I there is more of a memory with it. So I have a constant reminder with personal things to help me move on, to keep going. I don't need them, but occasionally when I do look at them, you know, when that memory comes back, it's like I remember why I'm doing something. So that's why I think it's so hard. It's very individualistic on this sort of situation. I don't feel like I'm procrastinating anymore on certain things. I'm procrastinating on potentially thinking about something about the future, but then I set a date. That's why I now do stuff like that. I set dates.
But for example, uni, you know, procrastination is doing your dissertation a few weeks before the deadline, right? It's not the cure because people, you know, people with really serious, like aka me, sometimes if I even set a date, I'm just like, oh, I missed the date. I guess I'll just set another date, you know? And especially if it's something that doesn't genuinely have a deadline, if it's something like personal, if it's something that I want to do for myself, if it's something like work telling me I need to do something, and I have to do it because I'm getting paid to do it, then I will do it. I will do it on time. I'll do everything. If it's something like uni or school or whatever, where you had to hand something in on time, as much as I'll probably leave it to the night before, I will do it. You know what I mean? But it's interesting because, to be fair, failure to me, and it just occurred to me kind of as we were talking about this, is I think one of those deep rooted things where paths that I want to take in my life, in my journey, the type of paths that I want to explore and navigate are maybe not aligned with, say, what my parents wanted or what the community are used to having people like us go for, right? So having that pressure and then, say, for example, still wanting to go for that thing, I feel like there's a big sense of fear in that, because it's not only a fear of just regularly failing, but it's a fear of, if I don't get this right, if I don't succeed in this, then everything that they said or everything that they made me feel like was true, that this was stupid or it wasn't worth it or it was a waste of time. And I think that sense of like having that fear being 10 times elevated or ignited, because it's kind of like, now it's not just a fear of failing, but it's a fear of like, okay, I've already pushed all these boundaries. I've already tried so hard to fight my ground and make sure that I could do some things like this, or I fought so hard to get here to a position where I didn't feel like I had to worry about everyone, etc., etc. But what if then I fail?
But see, this is what then, for me personally, these are the kind of things, it doesn't just necessarily inspire me. The way I look at it is, somebody did what you thought was impossible, right? They started maybe years ago, and all that's happened now is that their hard work has been recognized.
Of course. But then, sorry to cut you off there, but like sometimes it does feel like it is the one of that happen to have supportive parents or supportive family or supportive community, or they had to remove themselves entirely, you know what I'm saying? And again, it's not only about community and stuff like that. Fear of failure comes from a lot of different things. It comes from insecurities, thinking about what other people are saying, and etc., etc. You don't want to embarrass yourself. Again, stemming from the ego and stemming from insecurity. I mean, I don't know if it was the same with you, and I remember it always feeling like us and them. They get to be on TV and they get to be all sexy and they get to be all glam and they get to be doing things that they want, do the music, do the art, do those things. They get to be that's their world. We have to survive. We have to look at where, what brings in the money, what can you do that is sustainable, that is worth us bringing you here, bring us this pride. Our daughter's in television. What am I going to do with that information? How am I going to go to your auntie doing what?
Yeah, I see that and I get that. Now, I don't know if you remember, but I'm sure you remember, but when we were in school, we did the whole extended project, right?
Yeah.
And that was me basically just being like, okay, yeah, why not put me on YouTube, do this, do that.
Okay, so just to explain, the extended project, we had this new kind of head of sixth form. She was really like on it. She added this thing in sixth form called
an extended project.
An extended project. Wow, I completely zoned out there. Extended project, and it was basically that we could make a project about whatever we wanted, and it was to prepare us for uni, really, which we found out that later that not a lot of schools did. So shout out to you, Miss Smith, for thinking ahead. Well done.
That's an example I can use where, for me, even when it came to the arts and stuff, yes, I had certain obligations, I guess, or I've been told certain things, even when I wanted to be a writer. But I always then saw it as, okay, this is then the side project, right? So then in my mind, how I've always then done things is, if I'm doing something for fun, even if it is YouTube or writing, is side projects.
Yeah.
And I'm still able to do it while I also focus on other things. Now, if your side projects suddenly start popping off, right, you can make it your main project. So that was my thing. I remember when I wanted to be a writer, I was really young. I told my mom I want to be a writer, and she was like, oh yeah, like you ain't gonna make money of that. And at the time I was really young, like, so it was kind of like it was just like that sort of conversation of like, no, just think about something else. But she said you can still write if you want. Like there's nothing wrong with writing, but I don't think it makes money. That's just what she said. So from there on out, I always just thought, I can then do what I want, but I should still focus on getting a career or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think then the only difference is it depends on what you want your career to be.
I always just say that if education was free, and I know obviously everyone wants, it's not a new conversation. If education was free and there was no stigma around doing different things and having time to look for things, I feel like people would be able to more so dive into things and see if they like it. And if they don't, it doesn't necessarily mean failure. You just kind of hop on and learn something else that you might be better at. And there's always that constant educating, of course, teaching yourself, you can do so much. However, like being in an environment where you're enveloped into that subject, where you really like dive into the community and dive into what it really means to do the thing you want to do. And I know so many people go to education at any point of their lives, but it's kind of like you have to save up for that moment because you have your student loan already from university. You don't want to keep adding on to the having to pay for night school, or having to pay for college, or having to pay for this, or having to pay for this, and as well as paying to survive. I know sometimes when I hear things like, when people are like, oh, I've been doing ballet since I was 5, I've been drawing since came out of the womb. It kind of makes you feel like, well, damn, I never found what I was good at when I was younger. I'm just speaking generally here. And when you get to certain ages, when you get to your late 20s, when you get to your 30s, when you get to your 40s, and you're still kind of searching for your purpose, it feels like you're even more rushed, and it feels like you have more competition around it, which makes you fear failure. Makes you fear failure. And also because everybody now is in the same rat race, you know, whereas before it was like people in your community, people would only know about the competition will just be your community, you know, the competition will just be the people around you. But now it just feels like everybody's competing with everybody. You know, it's a whole Hunger Games out here. How do you let yourself fail? How do you allow yourself to overcome that fear? And how do you get yourself to get out of that headspace of, I don't want to lose. I don't want to feel like I can't do it. I don't want to feel inadequate, you know? And I think that's the main thing that people are scared of doing. I personally as well have these days where I'm just like, oh, getting into my head about it. Like, oh my God, am I really doing this may be my passion. This may be something that I really enjoy doing, but am I even good enough? Should I even bother? Is this all in my head? Is this just a kind of daydream that I want for myself? But in reality, you know how like people go on like X Factor or Britain's Got Talent and they think they can sing, or they really think that, and in their souls of souls, they really truly believe that they can do it, and they can't. And it's like a smack in the face, you know, when you get rejected that way. And sometimes I feel in my own story, am I that person? Am I that person that inside I might feel some sort of way, but actually, am I projecting what I need, you know?
Like, one of the things I was thinking about when you said that is, when I was younger, I used to be scared of the dark. Like, I saw an episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and Franklin Roosevelt was in there, and he was all like, there's nothing to fear but fear itself, right? And I feel like when you're scared of failure, it's still the same as being it's still the same as fearing the unknown. Because if you could try something and know for a fact that you would succeed, you would do it. But because you know there's a 50 chance that you will not succeed, you're leaning more towards the chance that you may not be able to do something. You're focusing more on that.
And that leads to procrastination, I think, like, to round it all up, like bring it back, like you say, full circle moment, where you literally will procrastinate because you're afraid of what the result is or what the result could be. So you're just like, oh, let me hold this off for as long as I possibly can, so then I don't have to face that result. So I don't have to like look that result in the eye.
The way I look at it sometimes is, damn, I waited this long. Now somebody's done it. And I think there's different ways to almost defeat procrastination, but also to defeat the fear and the thought of failure and what it may be. You know, if your failure is triggered by fear, then you need to get over or face whatever it is that you're fearing in order to just have a go at it and see how things turn out. Because I think when you are about to fail something, you can see when you may be failing. You can see when something may not be working out. And there are certain situations, once again, it really depends on the situation that you're in, but there are certain situations where it's like, damn, like, this is out of my control. And when it's out of your control and you fail, you cannot be mad at yourself for too long. But when there are things that you can do about it, I feel like you can tell in that moment, this is what I can do so I don't fail, because I can feel the failure coming up. It's almost like a cliffhanger. You can feel it coming up. And then that sometimes brings back the fear itself, but you'd be like, nah, I'm not looking at you, fear. I need to focus.
We want to hear, we want to see if people feel the same. Are we crazy? Are we weird? Are we normal? Doesn't matter what you think, really, but we just want to know. Just
you know what? Listen, if nobody else feels like this, then I am unique. I'm like a star.
Girl, there's like over 7 billion gazillion stars, and you're
not
trying
all
to say
stars
I'm
are the
unique
same.
like a star.
Not all stars are the same. If the star is too much, then I'm like a fingerprint.
Like and subscribe, or don't.
Like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram.
downloading our AIs. We're downloading ourselves into your interweb. We're downloading ourselves. Thank you, guys.
Over and out.
You may get hundreds and hundreds of great comments on your picture, or loads of love, or loads of whatever. And it's that one comment that says something negative that will linger in the back of your mind.